So moving on to the next session, regulatory session about tax and taxation, and something that's been lots of activity around over the past 12 months in Ceuta and Melilla, and how to maximize your fiscal advantage if you're operating in the Spanish market. So if the speakers are ready, can you come down, please? And I'll introduce you to the moderator, who's Pedro Fernández, who's a partner at Garrigues. And I'll allow him to introduce the panelists once they're ready. You don't have mics?
Hello, thank you. Hello. You will learn to say Ceuta? No, impossible. It's not Ceuta, Ceuta, good. Or Septa. In which language is it Septa? Septa, I've seen it in some maps, I don't know. I'll sit here, right? Okay, thank you, Willem, again for inviting me and entrusting me with the responsibility to moderate this panel. And thank you, everyone, for being patient enough to be here at this time on a Friday afternoon. But I couldn't expect less with these great speakers that are with me at the panel. Jaime Bustillo, he's...
yes.
Yes, thank you. He's a member of the government in Melilla. As you know, Melilla and Ceuta are what we call autonomous cities. I mean, in Spain, we have the state and then 17 regional communities with some degree of their competent authority in some matters that are delegated to them. They are all regions plus those two cities, which are in the north of Africa, Ceuta and Melilla. Jaime is part of the government of Melilla. And Felipe Masa on my left, to my left, he is a member of EY, of the Andalusian practice of EY, and who is a very active, well, you all know EY, he's very active in advising companies to set up shop in Ceuta. Although I have referred to him as Ceuta and to Jaime as Melilla, they have promised me that they are not going to compete, okay? And they cannot. I mean, they cannot, at least from a regulatory and tax standpoint, because they have exactly the same rules, all right? So anything we say for one city applies for the others. It's not only that, except for local or municipal taxation, where there is a high degree of autonomy, for the rest of the taxes concerned here, it is the central government, it is the state who has authority, who is the competent authority. And the task, the responsibility for inspection and auditing those taxes lies with the revenue agent, which is headed in Madrid and has direct command of the inspectors that are seated or present in those cities. So there is no way, no possible collusion between the local governments and the central government tax authorities, meaning that in that soft or kind competition between the two cities for business, tax cannot be a game changer. Am I correct in what I'm saying? I think so, yeah. Okay, very good. Well, Ceuta and Melilla have always enjoyed a particular special tax regime or privilege regime in Spain. This is for ages. It makes sense because they are is part of the Spanish population who lives in a territory with a special geographical circumstance. They are surrounded by a foreign state, by Morocco, and they are kind of, they're not part of the European Union custom union, so they are a bit different, and taxation has always been used by Spain, by the Spanish government, to enhance their situation, to foster activity there as a kind of a relief for them to accept to live there, which is unnecessary because they are two fantastic places to live. They wouldn't need all these tax reliefs to enjoy a happy life in the north of Africa, Mediterranean seabed. They are fantastic places. Many of you know them already. But the reality is that they have enjoyed these tax reliefs in corporate income tax, in income taxation. They are not part of the VAT territory. And it was only 2 years ago that that situation was also extended to the gaming duty. It started with a 20% with the standard national rate, and only a couple of years ago, the government realized that they also had to bring that benefit to the gaming duty and slash it to half, all right? And that created the interest that we see here, and that has taken for the second time to this wonderful conference to have a panel just on Ceuta and Melilla, beyond what is the normal taxation of the industry, which in itself is a huge and interesting topic. Because besides the reliefs available for Ceuta and Melilla, this is an internet-based business with all the tax problematic relating to cross-border payments, royalties to whether intellectual capital is sitting, permanent establishments or not, cross-border VAT. So there are a number of standard tax issues that would make it itself to have here a single session for tax beyond or besides the special reliefs for Ceuta and Melilla. But because the panel has the title it has, I come to Ceuta and Melilla, okay? So the first most important issue here is, when is a company entitled to enjoy the reliefs? Must the company be incorporated there? Can it have a permanent establishment? What kind of substance does it need? And I would like Felipe to talk about this and take us through this complex matter.
Thank you very much, Pedro. For me, it's a pleasure to be here with all of you and sharing this panel with you, Pedro, and with you, Jaime. And thank you very much to the organization to invite in EY in order to explain why these two places are so attractive in order to establish the business over there, and in this case, the gaming companies. Okay. As Pedro commented, in Spain, we have a tax on gaming activities that, the tax rate is the 20% of the win on a general basis. What is true is that, some months ago, the Spanish government reduced the tax rate to be paid if this activity is being conducted from both cities. Okay. What are the requirements that the Spanish legislation requires for the companies to apply this bonification in the tax rate? There are two requirements. First of all, what they say is that you need to have the tax residence in Ceuta or in Melilla, and the other one is that you have to be fully based in these territories. Okay. With this second requirement, we have the first problem. Why? Because this second requirement is not determined in our Spanish law. So we needed a binding ruling from the tax authorities, where the Spanish tax authorities will provide the taxpayers with legal security about the requirements that must be met by the companies to understand that you are going to be fully addressed in these cities. And the answer of the tax authorities was that you have to comply with three requirements. First of all, the 50% of the employees of the company must be attached to the Ceuta or Melilla headquarters. The second one is the 50% of the salary costs of the company must be these employees that are attached to the headquarters in Ceuta or in Melilla. And the third one is that if the company received some services from other company of the group, these services must not represent more than the 50% of the cost of the company. So in principle, if you comply with these two requirements, you are in a safe harbor in order to apply this discount in at the end of the day, you have a 10% gap between not only the rest of Spain, but with other territories such as Malta or Gibraltar. Okay.
Thank you, Felipe. Jaime, are you seeing in practice? I mean, how are you seeing companies reacting to these safe harbors? In your conversations with operators potentially seeking location in Melilla, do they believe they are too stringent? Have you been hearing whether it may be worth not complying with those limits and not being in the safe harbor and still defend that given their functions and how distribute and allocate their functions, they should have access to the regime?
I had to say that. Okay, I had to say that as the conversation has been advancing, their mind has been evolving with the conversation, because they soon discover that it's not only a case for the tax of the business itself, but also the conditions for the workers that also has a half tax as in comparison with the rest of Spain. So it means that they can offer high-level salaries to their employees with no so high spending for the company. It meaning good conditions and low investment from the firm. Also, when they go into the knowledge of how stable is that situation of the game online conditions, they soon discover that these special conditions for Melilla and for Ceuta are not brand new. Instead, they are well recognized, are stable, are agreed with the European Union, with the state, and as long as the conversation follows, I feel that they are more confident, trustful with the situation, and also it's more than an opinion. I see numbers of companies that decide to settle in Melilla. I can speak for Melilla, but also I know that also from Ceuta, and they are deciding to bet for us. So this is the best opinion I think we can offer.
Sure. Thank you. As I said at the beginning, gaming duties has been the game changer and why we're here. But the reliefs available for the two cities apply to other taxes, notably corporate income tax, where there is a huge relief that brings the effective tax rate down to a fraction of the nominal of the headline rate applicable in Spain, in the Spanish mainland. And the usefulness of looking at that tax is that it has been there for ages and there is a lot more of controversy, case law, so perhaps there we can find some guidance to refer to the gaming duty. How would you see that, Felipe?
Yes, at the end of the day, if a gaming company is going to locate the business in Ceuta or in Melilla, they want to apply to different tax benefits. One is the tax on gaming activities, and the other one is going to be the discount of corporate income tax. Here we have one thing that is, as you mentioned, we have a lot of case law, because what we have to determine is whether this local and this fully based and this management of the company located in Ceuta or in Melilla is not going to be challenged by the tax authorities. The key point from my point of view here is to, despite in both taxes, in my opinion, you can defend different arguments, but what is true is that at the end of the day, you must have the proper substance in the city. You must have human resources. You must have material resources, but you also have the management. You need to have the management of the company in order to, or if you don't have it, at least the board of directors must meet in the city, and this management must to manage the company from those cities, not from other places.
So you can notice here the difference. We have brought back the concept of seat of effective or place of management and control that is so widely used in cross-border transactions and situations. In gaming duties, that wasn't an issue. The question was the company had sufficient presence there for it to enjoy this, the reduced gaming duty. Now it's a matter of profit allocation. How much profit can be allocated to the Ceuta and Melilla and therefore enjoy the relief, and how much must be allocated or has to be left over in the rest of the company, which is a classical transfer pricing situation. And I guess, Jaime, this is how you see it in Melilla also, no? This is
well, I see clearly that beside that, the advantages in the corporate taxes and the gaming taxes, we can see another advantage in the VAT in connection with the local indirect tax, which is, you know that in Spain the VAT is running for 21%. But if your business is been running in Melilla, you are not going to be taxed with VAT. We are outside the VAT application area of the European Union, and we have instead another indirect and local tax, which is IPSI. It's a a local name, and it has a 4% as rate as normal. And regarding to this, your expenses are going to be charged only 4% and not 21%. And when you sold it back to the European Union, it is VAT exempted, so you don't have to pay more for this. So this is a very good advantage because it's regarding in your costs that are much more reduced. You can. This is the two cities has adapted their local taxes for improve at the maximum this reduction, because in this case it's not 4%, but it's 0.5% for the cost, for the expenses that the gaming enterprises do, for instance, in commercials or publicity or things like that. So okay. You have another reduction in your cost there.
Okay, this is critical. So to repeat, and I will now give you the word, Felipe, to repeat. Input, so costs incurred by the operator, do not attract VAT at 21%, but a different tax which varies between 0.5% and 4%. And between those costs, they are included the distribution or commercial development costs incurred in the Spanish mainland. I know, and we discussed this in past year, that was controversial. Felipe, how was that controversy unfold, and how has it been solved?
Yes, we have a report from the tax authorities last July, I think, and they published this information last July, by which, at the end of the day, what the Spanish tax authorities says that some services provided from the peninsula are not going to be anymore subject to VAT, but to the local indirect tax in the city. So at the end of the day, these taxes that are being considered as a cost for the gaming companies located in this city are reduced from the 21% to the 0.5%. So we are talking about a gap of 20 points.
This is huge, because an operator who, for instance, has a revenue share scheme with a company established in Spain to address the Spanish market, as you know, the revenue share boils down to the Spanish distribution channel charging fees to the operator established in Ceuta. So if those fees are increased or not by 21%, we're talking of a great deal, okay? So this is big. My opinion in this panel last year was that attracted VAT. Was I wrong? Time will say. Time will tell. But the point is that when advertising and some advisory, there is a close list of services that when they are supplied to operators non-established in the European Union, it applies Spanish VAT when the service is used or enjoyed in Spanish territory. And the tax authorities issued a ruling deviating from that concept and introducing a new idea. And I think we should welcome that because it gives a huge relief to the industry. Do you think this is safe going forward, Felipe?
Yes, with this binding ruling, I think we are in a safe harbor nowadays. As from July, I think this is a very good. It's a very good news for the sector because before that there are arguments to defend both postures. No? But what is true is that as from July, I can say that we are in a safe harbor in this situation.
I think, Jaime, would you recommend operators seeking their own ruling? In Spain, we don't have rulings. Is a word that introduced some misleading, especially to those of Northern Europe. It's kind of a consultation on a technical matter, but when it's issued to the operator, to the taxpayer who makes the consultation, then it's binding for that. Would you say that rather than relying on the resolution on a general basis, each operator should seek its own consultation or ruling?
I think that to understand better how can we expect to evolve, this is important to understand what does mean Ceuta and Melilla for the Spanish government and the Spanish common sense. And these are two little cities that produce a very high level of empathy with the government and general people. So every single movement of our government in favor of the city is well seen all around the city, all around the sectors, all around the politics. And so I think that there is no way of thinking about backwards movement in these kind of things. The state and the government and the country itself wants to find new ways for the cities, and they assume this. Simple.
That's a good point. It's a fair point. It is within that context that these types of rulings or consultations are issued, no doubt. One point, final point, because I was warned that we have 4 minutes left. Jaime, we cannot forget, well, just, I don't want you to spend too much time on income tax, just for you to know the same relief that applies for corporate income tax, or kind of the same, applies also to individual income tax. So our executives, is a good incentive for them to accept living there, besides the wonderful, the marvelous scenarios, scenes that you see there, okay? They would pay a lot less taxes. But besides that, there is an array of local and municipal taxes.
Yeah.
And here, perhaps, there are differences between the two. Are they substantial? And
more than substantial. They are essential, more than substantial. I had to say that we are in a very low tax areas. In Ceuta and Melilla, all the taxes, local taxes, has a reduction in between 50% or 75% in comparison with the rest of Spain. The social cost of the employees has also a reduction of 50%. Another advantage for another way to give a good retribution to your staff without incurring in costs for the enterprise. Also, you can see that the cost of the travel expenses, if you are resident in Melilla or Ceuta, has a reduction of 75%. It means that you can fly from Melilla to Madrid for 60 euros.
Okay.
So it's very affordable to have a living in Melilla, and you don't need a knife to kill lions in the streets, because we are in Africa, but we are a full European city with all the things you can expect from a European city. You can walk through Madrid and this.
The Sahara Desert keeps the lions away. Absolutely, absolutely. Okay, so I think this is it. Thank you very much for your insights and information, and I hope you have enjoyed. I don't know if there is time for any question that the audience may have. All right. Thank you very much. Okay.